Good morning. I'd like to call the Destin Fire Control District special meeting to order. The Board of the Fire Commissioners. We're here at 848 Airport Road here in Destin. The date is June 30th, 2021. Time is 9 a.m. This meeting is open to the public, so I'd like to open the floor up for public comments at this time. Seeing none, the floor is closed to public comments. This morning we do have Mr. George Smith here. He's our bond counsel, and he's here to discuss and tell us about the new fire station loan that we're getting. And so I would like to open the floor up to you.
Thank you very much. I'm George Smith. I'm with the law firm of Bryant Miller Olive. I'm over in Tallahassee, and I come over and Panhandle all the time. Love it over here. And we represent the fire district. So we're your attorney. We don't represent the bank or anybody else. We have attorney-client privilege with the district. We represent you in this transaction that's before you today. The resolution will approve the transaction. Is for a loan for not to exceed, or actually it equals $1.5 million. You'll repay it over 13 years, and the interest rate is 2.43%. So it sounds like a great rate. I know Catherine has really worked very hard, so I'll give compliments out. This is a hard transaction, only because I won't go deep into the weeds unless somebody would like to talk about it, but because your source of revenue are ad valorem taxes. So the Florida Constitution controls very tightly how you can use ad valorem taxes to repay debt. And frankly, banks aren't really fond of that structure, and because it ties their hands a little bit. But and props to Synovus Bank for stepping up. I work with them as well in Florida Rosa Fire District, which one of your neighbors. But they stepped up and contributed to the community. So it's a little bit of a difficult transaction, but we're here today. We've got everybody to the finish line. We're really excited about it. A very competitive interest rate, as you saw. And the resolution, accepts their commitment, approves some of the financing documents, which I'm happy to walk through if you're interested in speaking of those at length. But that's really the essence of what this short resolution does, is it approves the financing. If you approve the resolution, we'll then sign the closing documents, obviously, just like you would for any other loan. And the funds will be funded on July 1st, tomorrow. So I know the district's already used some of their own funds, some of your reserve funds and other funds to finance, to get the project started. So in fact, you'll receive the full $1.5 million tomorrow that will go back to kind of replenish those funds that you spent in advance of receiving the loan. Happy to get into the weeds, but usually puts everybody to sleep. So if whatever you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine, for sending out the documents to each individuals. We could review them prior to the meeting, so that we could have any questions if we have some, or if we had some questions, we already maybe have got some answered from the staff, and yourself. So I'd like to open the floor up to anybody that would like to ask a question or any further discussion.
Just one question. That was a very, very creative transaction. It took a while for me to wrap my head around it. But I understand the ground lease. I understand the fact that we hold title today and we will hold title throughout the duration. So consequently, why is the operating lease called a lease purchase agreement?
Absolutely. So basically, over time, those lease payments become purchase payments. And so this is a type of financing that's used principally in the state of Florida by school boards. And like I mentioned earlier on, that you have ad valorem taxes as your only source of revenue. School boards are very similar. They have a couple other sources, but their primary source is that. And I'm actually doing a deal very similar to this for Okaloosa Schools right now. I'll close one for Santa Rosa next week. Represent Escambia Schools, Walton Schools. This is a structure that school boards have kind of created, that the Constitution, we'll go deep in the weeds, the Constitution allows you to use those ad valorem taxes, but doesn't allow you to pledge them for more than 12 months.
Right.
So the structure that the banks and the industries come up with is, we'll give the district owns the ground. You're going to build your fire station on it, or you've already started, or we'll do the renovations. And you actually give a ground lease to the bank. And then they lease it back to you under a lease purchase agreement. And you can cancel that lease purchase agreement at any time. And you don't owe the bank any more money. You're done. And that's what the Supreme Court has sanctioned and said, you can do this. And that doesn't violate the Constitution, but because since you can cancel that, it's not more than 12 months, which is the limit the Constitution puts on it. If you do cancel that, in which you can exercise with no penalty, then the bank has control of that property for basically a 15 or 13 year period after that. and they can try to rent it out to
Right.
anybody else they want. But at the end of that, whatever that 13-year period is, at the end of that period, it would come back to you free and clear. If you were to exercise that option, which is 100% legal, you would find yourself in a spot where it's very difficult to finance in the future.
Right.
And that's kind of it's legal, but there would be kind of like business ramifications in after that. And so the banks do that for school districts. For instance, I mentioned Okaloosa Schools. They put several facilities underneath a master lease. Here, you only have one facility, and that's why banks are very slow to like this. For school districts, they have multiple schools, and if they cancel one lease, they cancel all the leases. And so that banks are very comfortable with that. And there's literally billions of dollars under this structure where they do a ground lease and a lease back, just like we described. And banks are real comfortable with that. For fire districts, it's harder because you just don't have as much kind of collateral, and you're gonna get it all back in 15 years. And if a developer comes to you and says, hey, we're developing this new neighborhood, we're gonna build you a fire district, you can walk right in, you might say, no, we don't need that other one yet. So we'll get it back in 15 years, we'll just operate all this. That's the risk that the bank's taking on. So that's why I give them the promise.
But my point was, we're not really purchasing it through the lease because we have the title.
That's correct. And so you have the title, it's, you know.
When we're buying back the ground lease is what we're buying.
That's
not
what
the
you're-
property. Okay, that's what I
You could say, I mean,
It's very
it is kind of
confusing.
it's a funky structure for sure.
Yeah.
But it's used very frequently in the state of Florida.
It just threw me off that we didn't call it like an operating lease or
I
something
agree.
else, because it's not a purchase.
And so for an operating lease, if you go out and lease, you know, a F-150, at the end of that lease, you just give it back. But here, you can in fact do a lease purchase, and sometimes you may do that with some of your vehicles.
Right.
You see it with computers, with copiers. It's a lease purchase, and if you give it back, you cancel that purchase,
That's right,
basically.
yeah.
And so
I
here,
thought it was I'd never seen a transaction quite like this. I thought it was really creative. Took me a while to understand it. And I think from my standpoint, I shared this with Catherine, when I figured out, well, first we own the land, then we give the ground lease, then we lease back the use of that property for a period of time, then I figured it out. So I understand how it works.
and it's structured, the payments on it are structured just like any other,
Exactly.
you know, periodic payment loan. So, but they're, from the underpinnings from a legal standpoint, that's what makes it legal. If we were just to do a 13-year term loan, we can do that if we get the voters to approve it. We didn't go through that process, so we did it this way.
Okay, I just got a little confusing question. You said a minute ago, if we prepaid it early within the 13 years or whatever the lease is, we still have to continue, the lease still has to stay there for 13 years?
If I said that, I misspoke.
Okay, so
If you pay it off early,
The lease is over.
it's done, and you just own it free and clear. Yeah, and everything terminates when you pay it off. But if you pay 3 years of payments, and for whatever reason decide you don't want to continue the lease, then no more payments are due, you lose possession of the property for 13 years. It's kind of an evergreen, it rolls 13 years. The bank holds it for 13 years. They can't sell title, but they can lease it to somebody or whatever they can do.
Okay, that's maybe.
But then you would get it back. But, you know, that's more of in the background to comply with the Constitution and Florida law. I mean, your expectations, and you told the bank this, our expectations are to keep the lease in place and pay you in full. And which is a reasonable expectation.
I'll go with it.
I'm fine with it.
Tommy?
Yeah.
Chief, you got it?
So
No,
moved.
sir, I agree with George, Ms. Catherine's, the yeoman's job on this. I mean, a significant amount of her time was put towards this. She did a great job in reviewing it and working with George and DC to make sure that you have the document in front of you today. I will say majority will come from George because this is what it deals with on a regular basis.
Sure.
But I just want to make sure that I recognize the work that she has done in this.
Thank you, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
DC, thank you, too.
DC, you're good with this?
Yes, sir. So moved.
Second.
All right, so resolution 21-07, lease purchase of a new fire station. I have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
So moving forward with that. Thank you so much. This time I'd like to open the floor for public comment.
See if chief has anything else for the property.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll
Just-
back up.
Yeah, just an FYI for the board. You know, at our last meeting, I had told the board that I'd reach out to Mike Schutz and see if there's anyone who might be able to get in early. Mike and I had some conversations. He was kind of hoping he could, but he didn't want to truly commit just yet until he got closer because he knew he had some of the stuff he needed to take out. So he was hoping he would, and yesterday we talked on Monday, and then yesterday we talked, and he says, "Chief, I'm out. Get yours. Start moving in. Thank you very much. Ask us to take care of it." So we started moving stuff in yesterday. We'll be continuing to move stuff in today. Tomorrow morning, we'll be operating out of that station, responding out of there, just like I told you we would. There's a lot of other stuff that's in the works and that kind of stuff that's going to come during a period of time, but we will be operating out of that station.
Can I go hang the signs up today then? Remember the signs we have made in the
Yes, sir.
future?
Yes, sir.
Let's just hang them up there
Yes,
and let
sir.
people see it.
That'd be great. That'd be
Absolutely.
fantastic.
We can do it today.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well,
And that's it. Everything else is kind of on, I mean,
Right.
we're kind of working through all those stuff, things that were planned are on and going, and then, you know, it's all moving along. So I really don't have anything specific other than the fact we're going to be in there come tomorrow morning.
Is engine 9 gonna be going over there?
10's got a lockable cab, so that way, the medications that we have, okay, well, medications that we have are in the cab. They've already got a cabinet that's locked. It's triple locked up, but we want to make sure the cab's locked up. So that way it makes it even more difficult for somebody to try to access that.
Does it have an alarm system on the cab?
No. But
I just don't see nobody messing with it.
that's the only cab that has a lock. The cab that locks up for us is 10, so the noise apparatus, we made sure we got it with locking cab this time. So that one will be shifting over there. For response purposes and all that, it's going to be called 19. So it's still going to be labeled 10, but we're going to call it 19 until the new apparatus shows up and takes its place.
Chief, what is the canvas structure coming?
I'm sorry, sir?
The canvas structure. for the car?
It's being produced right now. I'd anticipate we ought to have that here in about a week, maybe 2 at the most. He said, because their initial was 4 to 6 weeks. And then speaking with the manufacturer, they said, Chief, we can probably get that down to 2 to 3. So 2 to 3 would probably be in about 2 weeks, would be about that 3. I talked with the guys going to do the installation and this and that, and he's ready to go.
If it's all right with this board, I'll reach out to my buddies at the Sheriff's Department. You know, they always have a couple extra cars laying around. I'll ask them if they mind bringing one over and parking in the front there. Got a car there.
Right.
Got a car there, it just kind of makes people think twice. You see a fire truck in a car.
Yeah.
So if the board's all right, I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, that's great, because we got those spots right in front of the cottage, so right next to the road, so it'd be a deterrent for sure.
It makes them people down Calhoun slow down a little bit too. They don't want to sit there.
And I'll try to get, and tomorrow I'll work on getting those ramps, those jet ski ramps moved over there, and we can start
Yeah.
getting those in place. And
You gonna drag them over with your jet ski?
no, not possible. But, so,
Absolutely, if y'all want to
That's
stop
good.
by today or tomorrow, it's full access to our property, let me know, and I'll make sure to give you the code. You can get
Same
the
code for now?
It is for right now, we're working on reprogramming, and we'll give you all the codes once we have it reprogrammed.
Perfect. Awesome.
But yeah, you know, and that's exactly, Mike hit the words I was gonna say, I'm extremely excited about the fact that we
Yeah.
actually have possession of the property now, we're gonna start operating out of it tomorrow. You know, I just think that it's a tremendous benefit for our citizens and visitors, the location of this beach property, having that water access, having that into town covered. You know, as chief, I feel proud to be able to say we're gonna be able to cut down on our response times, to be able to respond and arrive on emergencies much quicker than we ever have on that end of town, and to waterborne emergencies, which is huge for us because of the significant delay we have currently. So to see that starting to develop, come to fruition, you know, I'm kind of excited about it.
any time frame yet on the lift?
Sir, I'm sorry?
The lift?
We had spoken with the actual manufacturer from South Florida, and we're hoping here within the next week or two, same thing, because that one's been in progress for longer. So, and he'd actually told us about 5 to 6 weeks to be able to get it built and up here to us. So that kind of time's passed. I'm hoping, I don't want to limit this too much, but I'm hoping within the next week we get it. And we've already gotten the commitment from Frank, just as soon as it arrives, Frank's gonna install it. He's gonna drop whatever he's doing, come over here and get our install done, and then go back and what he's doing.
Can we get a flag up, flagpole by the water?
To indicate who, it is.
Or just,
Fire department, sir?
well, just the American flag up.
Where at?
There's a flagpole in the back of the property.
Yeah, we'll get a flag on it.
Yeah.
Easy.
I'm excited, man. Long time coming, but we got it.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
I'm excited.
So I leave here, I'm gonna go put some signs up, man.
Awesome. Cool.
I'm gonna go sign documents, so I can't help you on that one.
Enjoy yourself, that is your signature.
It only take a minute, promise.
Can we make a comment?
Yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
I just wanted to add for the record today, if we could take a moment just to respect and remembrance for the 19 firefighters from the Granite Mountain Hot Shots that died 8 years ago today at the Yarno Mountain Fire in Prescott, Arizona. Think about our guys in that truck, the trailer outside, the TRT, every time I think about those guys and the disaster that's gone on in Surfside, Florida, down south.
Right.
We got a lot of men that go right in the same damn place in the same fire. So,
Yes, sir, and I'm appreciative of so are the guys for the commitment the district has made in purchasing this equipment. And it does something like what a tragedy that's happened in South Florida were to occur here, which we never would hope would ever occur. Our guys, because of the equipment you have, we're able to go right to work. We don't have to wait for TRT to come in, our task force to come in. They will be, but it gives our guys the ability to go right to work, just something like that. Tragedy like that would happen, our guys do right to work. So we're very appreciative, but, because I guess I'm in the industry, I know what those guys are doing, down there and the risk that they take. And that's the commitment that they make when they sign up and say, I'm going to do this. I want to be a firefighter. That's the commitment they make, is to take the risk that they're taking. But it's appreciative that, our board and other citizens understand the risk that they are taking, because sometimes I think it's taken for granted.
Well, to hear that they went into the building and it could collapse just like the
At
other
any
one.
time, further, that's
Yeah.
correct, that's right.
To clear it and do rescue, that was amazing. So I thought of our guys too, when that happened. I was just like, man, that could be our town, just as easy, so, respect. I'm saying prayers for those people. A lot of families grieving right now, and trying to get some answers. All right, well, if nothing else, I'd like to open the floor back up for public comments. Seeing none, I'd like to close the floor to public comments. The next special meeting, if needed, will be July 7th, 2021 at 9 a.m. If nothing comes from this board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Miss Tammy, I'm gonna let you shut this off for me.